Well, you know you have to be a citizen to vote, but it seems that didn't stop some people from casting ballots in Ohio last November. Secretary of State John Husted, a Republican, is asking prosecutors in his key swing state to now investigate non-citizen voting. He says it's an effort to clean up the voting rolls. While critics say voter fraud investigations amount to voter suppression, supporters say they are needed to ensure the integrity of our electoral process. With us now from the state's capital, Columbus, is the Secretary of State, John Husted. Mr. Secretary of State, welcome. Thanks for joining us today on the Fox News Channel.
Thank you.
You know, first of all,
thank you very much, Eric.
I mean, if you're not even a citizen, how could you vote?
Well, as part of our effort to modernize the election system in Ohio and to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat, we have been looking at these questions. And the thing of it is that if you are here legally in America, in Ohio, you can provide documentation to get a driver's license, but you could also use that driver's license under the old system to register to vote. So what we looked at are the number of non-citizens that existed in Ohio, that they self-reported, then looked at the voter rolls, compared them to one another, and found out that we had 17 non-citizens who had cast a ballot in the last general election, the presidential election, and that there were 274 other non-citizens who were registered to vote. We confirmed that using the documentation provided by the non-citizens themselves, and we're turning that over to prosecutors to make sure that they're held accountable, and we're going to clean up this system so that something like this doesn't happen again.
What do you say to those who think, well, you know, it's not that many people, it's just 17, and the margin of the presidential race was like 106,000 plus, so, you know, it really doesn't matter. It's a drop in the bucket, doesn't mean anything, you know, so what?
Well, there are other elections in this state other than the presidential election. As a matter of fact, in the last local round of local elections, we had at least a couple of dozen races for mayor, city council, to vote for a local school levy that were decided by one vote. And anytime you have a system that allows non-citizens or anybody who's ineligible to vote to cast a ballot, they have the ability to affect the outcome of a race that they had no right to affect. And that undermines voter confidence, that undermines our system of democracy. It needs to be cleaned up. As I've said about this, it's rare, but it does exist, and people need to be held accountable for it.
Yeah, and it's not just that. Let's take a look at some of the other figures that you found. How about dead people? Dead people apparently on the rolls. You found, here's the numbers, 257,000 names of dead folks still on the rolls, taking that out. 370,000 who've moved, taking that out. 300,000 voter updates, and then you found 340,000 duplicate registrations, meaning people are registered in more than one place and maybe potentially could vote twice. You got that down now to 4.
Yeah.
I mean, why isn't this like standard procedure across the country?
Well, it should be. You got to make. We have all this technology. We've got to make it talk to one another so that we're matching data across databases to find this out. We can't expect humans at the local polling locations to cross-match these hundreds of thousands of voters. As a matter of fact, one of the most stunning statistics that we found in our non-citizen review is that one voter who was a non-citizen had been casting a ballot in Ohio since 1993. Obviously, nobody had checked this. We're going to start checking this. We've designed this, since I took office, a system that's going to do these cross matches and make it very hard for people to get on the voter rolls. And I want to emphasize this point. You have to use technology to make sure that ineligible voters don't get on the rolls to begin with. We have a lot of talk about how we're going to check them on Election Day. We're not having enough discussion about how we prevent them from getting there to begin with.
Yeah, maybe other states will follow your lead. You have one poll worker now serving 5 years in prison for voting 4 times last November. She was charged with voting 6 times. So, Secretary of State John Husted, we thank you for joining us. I know next year is a midterm election year. You're going to have a lot of work to do. You ready for next year?
I'm ready. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
We will be checking on Ohio throughout the election. Thanks for joining us, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Patty Ann.